The film opens with a young girl named Eve at a police station, wounded and shaken. She clutches a small ballerina toy in her hand, thinking about her family. From here, the story flashes back, and Eve is on an isolated island with her father. The two are hiding from a dangerous cult. We soon learn that Eve's entire family was once members of this cult, but her father tried to escape with them. In the past, the cult murdered his wife and eldest daughter as punishment for betrayal. Now, he and Eve are still being hunted. Their safe house mansion is suddenly ambushed. Cult assassins kill all the guards outside and storm in. Eve's father, prepared for this moment, fights back fiercely. He sets off smoke to obscure their vision and hides Eve in a secret room. But the attackers keep coming, led by the cult's ruthless leader. One by one, Eve's father takes them down, but he's eventually overpowered. The leader approaches and sneers, "First you marry one of us, then you betray us, now you must pay." At that moment, Eve bursts out to protect her father. He throws away his gun and keeps fighting. The leader slips away, leaving his men to finish the battle. Just when one enemy is about to stab her father, Eve fires a gun and saves him. She helps her injured father escape, and as they flee, a massive explosion destroys the mansion, and the bombs he planted wipe out the cult inside. Believing father and daughter dead, the cult leader leaves the island. But Eve's father is mortally wounded. On the beach, he apologizes to her with his last breath. Time passes, and the police eventually rescue Eve. At the station, a man arrives claiming to be her uncle. He tells Eve that her father was a good man who only wanted her to have a happy life, and now he'll make sure of that. He brings her to a theater where children are learning ballet. Eve meets the director, who quietly asks the uncle if she knows the full truth about her parents. The uncle replies no. The director then tells Eve that her father grew up here, and he believes she'll love this place too. Eve agrees to stay. Before leaving, the uncle gives her a coin and says, "Whenever you need me, I'll always be there." Soon after, Eve meets the ballet teacher, who reveals that this place offers two kinds of training, ballet and assassination. She places the coin in Eve's hand and says, "Every coin has two sides. To survive, you must know how to fight, and how to escape." Intrigued, Eve agrees to study both. 12 years later, Eve is now a young woman, performing ballet where it all began. Her training is brutal, her feet bleed, but she refuses to stop until every movement is perfect. While bandaging her injuries, a friend advises her to rest, but Eve insists she wants to be the best ballerina, just like her mother. Then comes the assassin training, brutal combat against male fighters, and mastering all kinds of weapons. On this day, Eve loses every match. Her instructor asks, "What's wrong with you today?" Eve answers, "They're all stronger than me." The instructor replies, "No, you fail not because they're stronger, but because you already decided you would lose. You don't believe in yourself." Those words ignite the fire inside Eve. Believing in herself, Eve begins using her unique advantages to defeat opponents far stronger than her. Training continues, and after 2 months she makes a chilling discovery. Her best friend has been taken away. She confronts the director, demanding answers. The director calmly replies, "Those who fail to become great assassins, we send them to ballet. Your friend was not as gifted as you are." Eve then asks, "Then why aren't the best assassins given missions? I know I'm ready. I deserve one." The director answers, "Not yet. First, you must pass our tests." The first test is brutal. Eve is seated across from another girl, once a trainee like her, but after repeated failures, now reduced to nothing more than a target. At the signal, they must assemble their guns. Eve finishes first, but freezes, unable to pull the trigger. Her opponent aims back, but Eve's reflexes save her, and she puts her down before being killed. Not long after, a legendary assassin enters the Ruska Roma compound, John Wick. Eve, who has heard countless stories about him, approaches nervously and says, "I admire you so much. Please, give me advice. How can I become an assassin like you?" John studies her for a moment before replying, "You look already ready, but if you'll listen to me, leave this place as soon as you can." Eve asks, "Then why haven't you left?" John stays silent and walks away. Soon after, Eve is given her first mission, to protect a young woman from a gang member hunting her at a nightclub. But there's a catch, she's forbidden to kill. Only rubber bullets. This is her final test. At the bar, Eve spots the girl. Before she can warn her, the gang member arrives. Eve blocks his path and threatens him, but he shoves her aside. His men charge at her. Eve fights fiercely, taking them all down with non-lethal rounds. One by one, they fall. When the henchmen are down, she pursues the gang leader himself as he drags the girl outside. The fight is vicious. He's stronger and more skilled than she expected. Eve is overpowered at first, but then turns the tide, counter-attacking with relentless precision. She wounds him, pins him against a wall, ties him down, and rescues the girl. With this mission complete, Eve finally passes the last test. She is branded with the Ruska Roma tattoo, the same mark her father once bore. The story then shows Eve on another mission, an assassination. She guns down a target in a violent firefight, taking a bullet herself. Wounded, she digs the slug out with her own hands, photographs the corpse, and sends proof to the client, earning a massive payday. But as she drives away from the scene, her car is struck by another vehicle. A man steps out and attacks. He's no ordinary thug, he's a trained warrior. Their duel is fast, brutal, and relentless. In the end, Eve barely survives, killing him before he can finish her. After killing the attacker, Eve notices a strange mark tattooed on his hand, the same symbol worn by the men who murdered her father years ago. Shocked, she realizes there may be a deeper connection. Determined, she cuts off the man's hand and brings it to the director, demanding answers. "These are the people who killed my father," she says. "I want revenge." The director studies the mark and replies coldly, "No, Eve, do not pursue them. They belong to a cult, the same cult your mother was once part of. Every single member is an assassin like us. And long ago, the Ruska Roma made a pact with them, that we do not harm each other." Eve leaves in silence. Instead, she seeks out the man who first brought her to Ruska Roma, the one who once promised to help her whenever she needed. At a hotel, she confronts him, asking about the cult. At first, he warns her, "Don't go after them, they are too dangerous." But Eve produces the coin he gave her long ago. Bound by his word, he agrees. Making a call, he gives her Aled, the son of the cult's leader, a man named Pine, is at this very hotel. If she talks to him, she may learn the truth. But Pine has a bounty on his head, 400,000. The hotel is swarming with assassins waiting to claim it. Among them is even his own daughter, Lena. Eve sneaks into Pine's room through the back. He instantly points a gun at her, but she insists, "I didn't come to kill you, I just want to know about your father." Pine admits his father was indeed part of the cult, and he himself has been running from them ever since. Before they can continue, the room is stormed by killers. Pine is beaten while Eve is attacked. She fights back savagely, standing side by side with him against the assassins. Amid the chaos, Pine pleads, "Please save my daughter." Eve agrees. She grabs Lena and tries to escape, but dozens of armed men flood the hallways. Eve battles through them relentlessly, taking down enemies one by one. Meanwhile, Pine is gunned down. Just as Eve is about to break free, she is struck from behind and knocked unconscious. Lena is captured and taken straight to the cult's leader, Eve's ultimate enemy. When Eve awakens, she finds herself surrounded by assassins who accuse her of breaking the sacred law by killing inside the hotel. Eve shouts, "I didn't come here to kill anyone, I only wanted to talk. They attacked first." Her captors execute the others who broke the rules, but spare her. Later, Eve seeks out an arms dealer known for supplying illegal weapons to assassins. She suspects he knows more about the cult, but he refuses to talk. As Eve examines his stock, the cult suddenly strikes, sending fighters to eliminate her. Eve scrambles for cover, searches for weapons, and discovers a crate of grenades. Pulling the pins, she blows the attackers apart in a fiery explosion. She and the arms dealer barely survive. Shaken but alive, the dealer finally confesses, "I've hated that cult for years. I've always wanted to see them destroyed." He gives Eve the cult's location. Without hesitation, she sets out, ready to finish what began the day her father was murdered. On the way, the director calls and warns her, "You're about to run into our enemy." Eve ignores the warning and enters the city, the cult's stronghold. She quickly realizes everyone here is a member of the cult. She walks into a cafe and spots a ballerina toy, the same gift her father gave her as a child. As she watches, the room suddenly empties and a man outside lunges at her. They fight, but he's far stronger. Eve wrestles a gun away and shoots him dead. A professional fighter, the head chef, leaps at her next. They struggle, tumble, and end up smashing plates over each other until one falls. More attackers pour in, but Eve fells them one by one and escapes into the streets. An unseen observer has watched the whole brawl and immediately reports back to the cult leader. Eve is alive. Lena appears and knocks Eve out from behind. She notices the tattoo on Eve's back, recognizes it, and drags her before the leader. When Eve wakes, the leader asks coldly, "Who are you? Don't you know there's a pact between us and Ruska Roma? You cannot hurt us." Eve replies, "I am no longer of Ruska Roma." Eve shocks the leader by naming her parents. He had believed she died years ago, now she sits before him, alive. At first, he assumes she came to rescue Pine's daughter, but he quickly realizes the matter is far bigger. Lena, stunned, asks what this means. The leader answers, she's come to avenge her parents' death. She's your sister. She used to be one of us. Lena is horrified. While they talk, Eve suddenly strikes from behind, killing everyone in the room, then flees toward another house. Lena chases and blocks her. Eve levels a gun at her. Lena cries out, "You're my sister." Eve snaps back, "How can I believe that? Father and everyone thought you were dead years ago." Lena says, "They only killed our mother. I thought you were dead. Look how grown you are now." Outside, the cult's guards ask the leader whether to kill them both. He replies coldly, "Deal with them." Moments later, assassins lob explosives at the house. The blast critically wounds Lena. As Eve kneels beside her dying sister, Lena whispers her final words. Wounded herself, Eve forces herself to her feet, fury and new resolve burning in her. She grabs a nearby sword and storms out of the rubble. A swarm of assassins charges. Alone, Eve fights them all, slashing hands, driving the blade through bellies, cutting down attacker after attacker. She fights and cries at the same time. The leader, now terrified of Eve's power and determination, phones the director of Ruska Roma. "If you want to keep our pact, remove this girl now, or we will go to war." The director understands the threat. She posts a bounty on Eve's head and sends a deadly assassin. Soon after, a mysterious figure arrives in the city, John Wick. The leader announces to the populace, "Two assassins have infiltrated the city. Do not interfere, let the wolves hunt." When John Wick finally confronts Eve, he tells her bluntly, "I'll give you one chance. Leave this place. If you don't, I will be forced to kill you." Because many eyes are watching, John Wick pretends to fight Eve, whispering again and again, "Leave this place." Eve answers firmly, "I won't go until I've avenged my father." John Wick glances at his watch. 28 minutes until midnight, that's all the time you have. If you're still here after that, I'll have no choice. Eve slips quietly out the back door. On her way to the Kingpin's hideout, she silently takes down guards, gagging them, knocking them out, and even shooting anyone who blocks her path. The Kingpin quickly realizes John Wick has been holding back. Furious, he issues a city-wide command, combat mode engaged. Enemies flood the streets, but Eve cuts them all down. At last, she reaches an armory and seizes a flamethrower, burning through waves of attackers with ruthless efficiency. But then, another assassin appears, also wielding a flamethrower. Before he incinerates her, Eve smashes a glass wall and leaps into a nearby building. She grabs a fire hose and unleashes a torrent of water, blasting him back and extinguishing his weapon. When the hose finally runs dry, Eve collapses, exhausted. The assassin closes in to finish her. At that instant, a single shot rings out. John Wick, from a distance, shoots the assassin's flamethrower, causing it to explode. The man is killed. Eve, saved, turns and gives Wick a silent nod of thanks. Realizing his end is near, the Kingpin frantically grabs Pine's daughter and tries to flee the city. But before he can escape, Eve blocks the car and kills the driver, forcing him to stop. She orders the Kingpin out of the vehicle. He obeys. Eve tells him coldly, "I've already killed all your men. I don't want to kill anyone else, except you." John Wick checks his watch. Only 2 minutes to midnight. He knows if Eve delays, he'll be forced to act. But in that final moment, Eve draws her gun and shoots the Kingpin dead. The clock strikes midnight. John Wick receives a call from the Ruska Roma director. Is she dead? He answers number. He is. We then see Eve leaving the city with Pine's daughter. Time passes. Shockingly, Pine himself is still alive, and Eve keeps her promise, returning the child safely to him. Days later, Eve appears in a ballet studio, watching her childhood friend perform. But suddenly, every assassin in the audience receives a message. Eve's bounty has risen to $5 million. The same message pings on Eve's own phone. She quietly leaves the hall, fully aware the battle isn't over. The screen fades to black, a cliffhanger ending, setting the stage for part 2.